Okay, I threatened to do a vlog, and the truth is, I already did a vlog, but I didn't like it because it was rambling, and I had various technical problems, and so I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it the quick way, which is I set the timer, and it'll go off, and then I won't have to edit. The lazy person's blog is don't make it go over 10 minutes, and then you won't have to edit, and that'll save a lot of time. So this is just a vlog to say I'm here on a Sunday night in Madison, Wisconsin. It's after hours. I don't have the natural light. I have to go with the ramshackle setup that I've got here, and I apologize for that. What did you want to talk about? Did you give me good questions? You know, the quality of the vlog depends on your questions. If you think this vlog isn't good enough, think of some good questions for next time, and next vlog will be better. One of the questions that was asked was, what did I think of Mark Halperin's op-ed in today's New York Times? Mark Halperin wrote an op-ed that was claiming that he had been influenced by the book What It Takes by Richard Ben Cramer, which is a terrific book about the 1988 presidential campaign that showed all of the things one has to do to, basically what it takes, the title of the book, is you have to get through this grueling campaign you have to be sort of a super person to get through it. And Mark Halperin says he was so influenced by that book that it affected his coverage of the campaigns ever since then. And he characterizes the book as meaning that, in fact, the grueling task of getting through a campaign is itself proof of one's deservingness to be president. Now, I read Richard Ben Cramer's book, well, it must have been 10 years ago, but I don't think that's what he's saying. I'm a little suspicious of Mark Halperin saying that that's what the book means, because I don't think it means that. I think it means what it takes. This is actually, factually, what it takes to get to be the candidate and to win the election. That is not to say that's who deserves to win the election. It's just to say that's how the reality has been working. Now, if you're covering the campaign, you don't have to just cave to that and say, oh, I guess that's how it's determined who will be president, who gets through it all. So I'll just cover the campaign as if I'm just observing who's getting through the grueling task of campaigning. That seems to me to be a totally incorrect assumption. Why don't you fight against that? Why don't you say, well, people are basically going to look at how well they're campaigning and judge them based on that. But since that's not the actual test of whether one ought to be president, a reporter's duty, a reporter's task ought to be to bring out other things. Somehow Mark Halperin did not see that, but somehow, roundabout now, he's suddenly changing to not covering the election as who's doing the best job of campaigning, but switching to the subject of who's, what different policies are, what qualifications they really have. And I'm just wondering, Reader I Am asked me what I thought of that op-ed, and basically my snap reaction to that is that I think he's supporting Hillary Clinton, and he's changing his tune because he knows that the coverage of how well they're campaigning is not working out very well for her. And so therefore let's switch how we're covering it. It seems to me all along they ought to have resisted covering just the subjects of, how they're going around to one event after another, and what they happen to say on a particular day, what the latest slip is, and who's making the most of that slip, and who's whatever. Anyway, so I don't trust Halperin. That was my idea about that. Another subject that came up in the comments when I threatened to do my vlog was, why don't you do a vlog at a blogger meetup? At a blogger. Why don't you do one of the blogger meetups like we've done in New York a couple of times, and we did in San Francisco a couple of weeks ago, and have the commenters in video, make a vlog out of video made at one of these meetups. And I said I thought that the commenters really, wouldn't want to be on video on the web. It's a little much of an invasion of your privacy. I invade my own privacy, and I entertain the commenters in my comments section, but I have a feeling that most of the commenters are just revealing themselves to the extent that they want to. I think even just coming to the meetup is probably more than most readers and commenters want to do. If the Meetup included, we'll put you on video, and I'll edit it and put it up on YouTube. I think if that were the prospect of what was going to go on at the meetup, that a lot of people just wouldn't come to it, wouldn't want to do it, and with good reason. So I don't think you really want to do that. I thought that it might be good for me to handle the camera in such a situation, though, and maybe picture me holding the camera like Alexandra Pelosi in the video Journeys with George. Do you ever see that documentary? Nancy Pelosi's daughter, Alexandra, is is on the campaign, and she's making a little documentary for HBO. She's holding the camera and interviewing people, so you hear her voice. And, it's very kind of do-it-yourself looking kind of a documentary, even though she's doing it for HBO, so I'm sure she really has more support. But, someone who's really actually doing it themselves, like me, could use that style. So I'd be interviewing you with the camera, and you'd be the commenters. And so my question is, of all the commenters, who would you like to see me interview, and what do you want to see me ask? Who would you most like to see on camera and see interviewed? And who of the commenters do you think would really actually want to be interviewed like that? Well, now I'm asking the questions. That's the question. You can respond in the comments. Another thing that was asked was, by Reader I Am also, do you think that children should call parents by their first name? I think they've noticed that my sons do tend to call me by my first name, not all the time. And they didn't always do it. And then Rick Pick showed up to say, that disturbs the whole natural order. Children should, you're doing some great wrong to your children if you don't maintain the hierarchy and have them address you by some respectful term like mommy or daddy or mom and dad. I answered this in my first attempt at the video before I started doing my quickie version where I'm just, staying within the time limit, which I think will be up soon. I said, I think there are many ways of being a parent, and the social conservative, hierarchical one, authoritarian model is one of them. And I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm just saying it's not the only one. And, it takes all kinds of people. Well, maybe there are some kinds of people we could do without, but I think there's a range of ways of being a good parent, a range of ways of being a good person, being a good child, and we shouldn't assume there's only one way. The traditional way is kind of tried and true, but it's not proof it's the best. There are some more experimental things to do. Don't go too far with your experiments, but I think the simple innovation of having more parent-child equality, talking to children about why the rules are what they are, revealing yourself as an actual human being rather than an oracle of authority, is something that you might want to do. Hear the dogs bark? That's not real dogs. That's my alarm going off. So there you have it. That is the end of the video. So let's end. You notice I have my flowers from the old video. We can end this video like we ended the previous one and just do like that.